Another day, another disturbing display of violence on the streets of the United States. This video emerging from Detroit, where Black Lives Matter protesters appear to be run down by a police vehicle. Some demonstrators can be seen surrounding the cruiser and climbing on the bonnet while chanting in unison. But as the driver accelerates away from the scene, these people are sent flying. Hello, my name is Julie Snook and welcome to 9NewsWatch. Thankfully, none of the protesters were badly injured. The Detroit police chief saying the officers feared for their lives.
During our investigation, officers reported that once they heard the back window or rear window smash, it was very loud, they was not certain that they were not being fired upon. So it was important for them to get out of there for their safety.
That is the terrifying sound of gunfire in Seattle's police-free autonomous zone. Black Lives demonstrators have controlled the heart of the Washington state city for 2 weeks since the shooting of George Floyd. A 16-year-old boy in that SUV was shot dead in this most recent gunfire. His 14-year-old friend was critically injured. This is the bloody scene there on the streets today. By the time the police got to the scene, the young pair had already been transported to hospital by local medics.
And we've had multiple other incidents, assaults, rape, robbery, and shootings. And so, this is something that's going to need to change. We're asking that people remove themselves from this area for the safety of the people. If they care about people, they're going to have to try to help us to make it safe.
Well, we featured this vision of a Missouri husband and wife yesterday, their guns drawn as they confronted protesters outside of their St. Louis mansion. The pair armed themselves as Black Lives Matter demonstrators marched down a private road to the mayor's house, where they were demanding the mayor resign. Now, since then, those scenes and those images you're looking at there have been seen all around the world. The husband, 63-year-old Mark McCloskey, a personal injury lawyer, along with his wife Patricia, who is in those shots there, has given his account of what happened.
We're threatened with our lives, threatened with a house being burned down, my office building being burned down, even our dog's life being threatened. It was about as bad as it can get. My wife doesn't know anything about guns, but she knows about being scared. And she grabbed a pistol, and I had a rifle, and I was very careful. I didn't point the rifle at anybody. The only thing that stopped the crowd from approaching the house was when I had that rifle.
Well, we're going to stay in the United States now. The 4 police officers charged over the death of George Floyd have appeared in a Minneapolis court. Derek Chauvin, who is facing 1 count of second-degree murder, had no supporters in the gallery as he appeared via video link. Outside court, Floyd's family members say they were directed to remain silent during proceedings.
We're the only 2 black people sitting in there. So we didn't like the fact that we were asked not to respond a certain way. So I think my nephew case is going to be a fight. This is going to be a heavy fight. I see it right away.
The 4 defendants have waived their right to a speedy trial, which has been set down for March of next year. The former California police officer dubbed the Golden State Killer has pleaded guilty to numerous crimes. 9's Amelia Adams has more.
Well, what an extraordinary day for the surviving victims and the family members of victims of Joseph DeAngelo, today admitting he was the Golden State Killer. Prosecutors for 6 counties across California today detailed his gruesome attacks, rapes and murders, and one by one he replied to each count against him.
Murder in the first degree. That charge, sir, how do you plead?
Guilty.
13 counts of first-degree murder. He also admitted to multiple rapes and burglaries under a plea deal which will see him avoid the death penalty but serve 11 consecutive life sentences. He looks an old, frail man in court today, but his crimes are those of a monster. He wore a clear face shield today so that victims could see his face. A very emotional day for many who've waited more than 4 decades for justice.
We are hearing details of each other's assaults for the first time today. So there's a lot of empathy and just a lot of love pouring out to each other.
It is an equally fascinating and disturbing story. Tonight in 9 News at 6 o'clock, all the details, including how police finally caught the Golden State Killer more than 40 years after he murdered his first victim.
Back home now, and it's been another tough 24 hours in Victoria, the state recording 64 new coronavirus cases. And while that number is down from the previous day, there have been 233 cases since Thursday. 13 of these new cases have been linked to known outbreaks, 20 were identified through routine testing, while 31 cases are under investigation. Premier Dan Andrews today announced 10 suburban hotspots will be locked down from 11:59 p.m. tomorrow night for a month. That takes it through until the end of July 29. So you should not be going into those postcodes except for work or caregiving. Meantime, Queensland is opening its borders a week early on July 3. The Premier this afternoon ruling out Victoria, though, saying the state simply cannot risk removing border restrictions for people coming from areas of Victoria where there is community transmission.
The border with Victoria will remain closed and will be strengthened. Tougher measures will apply from this Friday, July 3, at 12 noon. Anyone who has travelled from Victoria, including Queenslanders, will be prevented from entering or will have to quarantine at a hotel at their own expense.
Let's take a closer look at today's other COVID-19 news now. And South Australia will not open its remaining border restrictions next month as planned, meaning Victoria, New South Wales and the ACT remain locked out. Among other things, that impacts the AFL fixture. Rounds 6 and 7 will now be redrawn. New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian is worried residents are becoming too relaxed and again warned against complacency. Despite this, the border with Victoria will remain open at this stage. Staying in New South Wales, and a number of relaxations will go ahead as planned tomorrow, with community sport allowed and cinemas reopening. A number of jockeys in New South Wales have been told not to attend a race meeting at Gosford today and instead be tested after a rider at Rosehill Gardens on Saturday displayed flu-like symptoms. In a stark reminder, the World Health Organization has warned the pandemic is, quote, not nearly close to being over, with cases soaring in India and Pakistan, Peru and Chile. And lastly, a study out of the United States has found a new flu virus in Chinese pigs has the potential to become infectious to humans, and it also has pandemic potential. You can see that full story tonight at 6 o'clock. Well, back home now, and to our poll of the day. There are concerns improved job seeker payments are deterring people from finding jobs, with many opting to stay on the dole rather than go back to work, despite the nation's unemployment rate currently sitting at 7.1%. Due to end on September 27, those extra payments are costing the national economy an extra $1.7 billion a fortnight. So we're asking on Facebook today, do you think job seeker is stopping people searching for employment? 71% say yes, while 29% have voted no. Some very passionate and personal stories in the comments on our 9 News Facebook page. Go and check them out. Well, who doesn't mind a bit of an ear rub after a long day at the office? You don't say that every day. This cute cheetah certainly does. This video was posted by the Wildcat Conservation Centre in Wilberforce, New South Wales. Look at that little face. It's been shared nearly 50,000 times, that video. And if you want any more of a lift up, you can head to their Facebook page to see more of these cute cats. Alrighty, before we go, let's take a quick look at tonight's edition of Paramedics.
If there's survivors, they've probably only got minutes to live.
4 in the water, 3 with vests.
It was going to be the most dangerous thing I'd have to do.
Without a doubt, this is the biggest paramedics of the year.
One of the most heroic rescues ever seen.
The extraordinary rescue.
The paramedics on the way down.
That will have Australia on a knife's edge.
1 minute I can see him, the next minute I can't.
Aussie bravery.
The story actually gets quite heartbreaking.
Like you've never seen. The biggest paramedics of the year. Tonight, 7:30 on 9.
That's it for another day here at 9 News Watch. Of course, you can catch us again tomorrow from 5:30 p.m. I'm Julie Snook. Thanks for your company.